Can everybody hear me? All right, great. My name is Sarah Green, and I am here today to talk about generating business value from your analytics, specifically by establishing an analytics practice. All right, so today I'm here to talk to you. We'll go over a brief introduction. We'll then talk about a level set of why analytics and why we were interested in establishing an analytics practice, specifically within our marketing department at Consumers Energy. We'll then talk about the step-by-step guide that we found to be the most successful when actually implementing the analytics practice. And then we'll get into benefits realized and last but not least, questions. So first and foremost, an introduction. The company that I work for, I am proud to work for Consumers Energy, which is Michigan's largest utility company. We actually provide natural gas and electricity to the entire Lower Peninsula. We have about 10,000 employees and contractors total within the state, and we actually have over 71,000 miles of electric lines that we maintain, as well as 30,000 miles of natural gas pipeline. A little bit about me. I graduated in 2013 from the University of Michigan with a degree in informatics, specialized in data mining. I began my career at Consumers Energy as a relationship manager. So I was our primary liaison between our customer experience department and our IT group. I then progressed to leading a small team within IT dedicated to benchmarking, process improvements, and goal setting. I then was tapped in 2016 to actually establish a marketing analytics practice at Consumers. More importantly, I grew up in Michigan. I am happy to still be here. My family's still here. I have an adorable French bulldog puppy named Grape, like the fruit, 2 cats, and I'm actually getting married in August, so I'm spending a lot of time planning for that. So now let's talk about why marketing analytics and the proposition that I was approached with late in 2016. So the scenario that was laid out for me was we have a goal, a very important goal at Consumers Energy around customer satisfaction. And we have a lot of activities that we do across the company to support that initiative. But some of the primary programs that we also have in support of customer satisfaction include energy efficiency. So as for electric energy efficiency savings, we have natural gas energy efficiency savings. These are all programs that our customers have said they're interested in participating in. So there's something we like to offer. We're also getting into the world of renewable energy. We have our Solar Gardens program that is, and we have goals around trying to make sure that we achieve a certain number of solar garden subscriptions for our solar garden that we have out in Grand Valley. We also have pilots that we're trying to determine the viability of for our renewable energy portfolio. We have value-added products and services, and for our residential and business customers alike. And there are many, many more of these programs, but ultimately, we have all of these goals as an entire company that are in support of customer satisfaction. And with all of these programs, with all of the marketing that happens even at a brand level to support just general awareness of Consumers Energy as a brand, we have collateral. We have print messages, we have magazine ads, we have emails that I'm sure some of you get on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. We actually have pre-roll videos that when you're watching Hulu, they'll pop up and you'll see an ad about billing and payment options at Consumers Energy. We have digital ads. We have direct mail. We have bill inserts. We have so many touch points with our customers all of the time in support of all of these programs, and it's overwhelming. It was overwhelming to us as a company, and I'm sure we really believed that it was overwhelming to our customers as well. Part of the reason this was so overwhelming was because we did not have a centralized marketing function up until last year, or in 2016. And so in 2016, we may or may not have gotten some not so great customer satisfaction survey results, and our Senior Vice President of Customer Experience and Technology decided to have a small pilot in which we would centralize our business marketing specifically. That way, we could have an overarching strategy, one umbrella in which we were all driving towards for all of our marketing assets. And part of establishing that POC was to make sure that we were actually measuring the benefit and the return on investment for all of this marketing collateral. So that was the scenario I walked into there's still a few more that are popping up. When I actually was offered the position of marketing analytics manager, it was right after the POC had ended, and the results were astounding. From customer research that we were able to run specifically around our business customers, the impact of that one overarching strategy for our business marketing, our customers were very satisfied. They were excited about the programs that we were talking about, and they understood our message. Previously, it was too cluttered. We had way too much in market, and it wasn't following one consistent voice. So they decided to actually centralize a few of the marketing functions under a single marketing director. We would have the business and business energy efficiency marketing within one space, and then they actually added and centralized our value-added products and services, and then analytics, and that was where they brought me in. We still had, to complicate things just a tiny bit, 2 other senior vice presidents responsible for some of our primary marketing programs: residential energy efficiency and our renewable energy portfolio, and then our actual brand messaging. And this was really the setup that I walked into. When I walked in after the POC, some reporting had already been established as a result of supporting that pilot for the business marketing. This reporting was taking 2.5 days to compile every week. So Monday morning, 9 a.m., all the way to Wednesday at noon, when that was our SLA. The reporting was given to 2 teams, our business energy efficiency team and our business marketing team. This was also taking 3 agencies plus an individual from Consumers Energy to compile all of this reporting. When I walked into the role, it was great. There's an established process. So it was up to me for the first month and a half on the job just to observe what was happening. And this is what it looked like. Every Monday morning, one of our agencies would pull metrics from the media that was actually placed in market the prior week. They would then send that to our other agency, our actual creative agency, who would transpose data from the first spreadsheet to another Excel spreadsheet. They would pull a Google Analytics report that would ultimately get then transposed into one more spreadsheet that finally got sent to me. And that was when I would take the numbers from that spreadsheet, compile them into another spreadsheet. It was Wednesday at noon. I had my Excel graphs, and I could deliver them to the marketing managers, and this was my face every single week. It was a miserable process, but it was an established process. It was some place to start, and that was all we needed. So when talking to my boss, our marketing director, we realized that our problem statement to start this entire analytics practice was the fact that our marketing and communications data was inconsistently tracked. We didn't have a work standard defined. And until we had a consistent way of capturing and understanding the data that we would like to analyze, all of the reporting and all of the analytics eventually, or visualizations in the world, weren't really going to be able to help drive very much business value. So this was what we decided to tackle first. So we decided to take on this project in a pretty agile format. Given the fact that we didn't have all of the marketing centralized in one department, that alone helped drive the decision, and it made the most sense for us to focus first on just one area within marketing. We decided that would be the business area. And then we would stagger the approach of rolling out the rest of the standardized process to the remaining groups for the first half of the year. We also felt like this would be a really, really critical way of gaining buy-in with some of the marketing areas that were actually under different senior vice presidents. They had no reason to participate in our activity, but we wanted to be able to show really quick value by establishing the practice first for business, showing the results to these other groups, and then hopefully having them join the bandwagon without much fuss. All right, so what did we do to actually establish the marketing analytics practice? And again, the focus was here, making sure we were gathering the right data in the right format in order to produce some awesome insights for all of our marketing managers. The first few steps are a little dry, but very important. So the first step, we actually sat back and determined the business value. So we wanted to make sure that we could match every single activity that we were doing within marketing back to the company goal that it supported. We found in marketing, Consumers Energy, it's a company of engineers, it's a lot of pipes and wires. The second that you start talking about power plants, everybody's eyes light up and they can talk money all day. The second that we started to talk about marketing expenses, it was staring at a room of blank faces. So we wanted to make the connection clear between the work that we were doing and how it actually supported the company goals. So that way, when it came time for budget cuts, because perhaps we didn't have as cold of a winter as we were anticipating, we had a leg to stand on, and we could tell our senior vice presidents, no. You'll actually have an impact to your operations and to customer satisfaction if we take away this budget. And so we asked, there were a lot of conversations with the marketing managers to get to this point. We started first with the business marketing, and we asked some questions that they had never been posed before, really trying to get them to take a step back to understand why are they doing what they're doing, and really trying to push them to think through whether there were going to be any cost-saving impacts by marketing a particular program or subject, whether this would result in an increase in quality, whether it would be a faster speed to market by whether that's for actually going out to somebody's house to help with gas emergency, or whether it was our call center response. What impact does our marketing have in driving awareness for our customer base back to our company goals? As a company, too, for CMS Energy, two of our additional areas of focus are safety and morale. And so we primarily decided for our business marketing, which was focused on very high-level messages around power quality and reliability, billing and payment, price, corporate citizenship, the environment. The primary focus there was going to be around the morale piece, since that's where our customer satisfaction goal falls under. But there were still some additional impacts to other company goals that without doing this exercise, we never would have realized. This was also a really important conversation for me to have at the start, because this already helped level set in my mind where we should take our analytics, where we should take our visualizations. It was a critical component of the reporting that I needed to be able to do at the end of this entire process. What was also really cool about this step, after going through this with our entire marketing department scattered across the company, we had a repository of all of the different programs that we as CMS Energy offer and how they tie back to our company goals. So that was not only helpful from a marketing perspective, but also for some of our operations. So the senior vice president that was in charge of our residential energy efficiency programs had not made the connection between the programs that she actually was responsible for advertising for and the tie back to one or two company goals. So it ended up being a great conversation, even and an impact to operations. Next, once we had finished that exercise, we moved on to standardizing our tracking. So remember at the beginning when I said we had 3 different agencies that were participating in the data collection and data reporting at the start of this process as a result of the POC. Well, I found after talking to all of these different agencies that we had very different ways of tracking our data. So for marketing purposes, we have on the digital side a lot of different data elements that we can actually capture in order to tie back what's successful in market and what's not. We had one agency that was actually utilizing a specific type of tracking called UTM codes. We had one agency that wasn't, and we had one agency that was thinking about using it. So we wanted to standardize that, and we wanted to make sure that no matter what, they were using the most advanced tracking practices possible, but that the data elements were coded the same. So that way, at the tail end of this process, when we started getting into the actual reporting, we would be able to have a consistent key to understand what marketing asset was supporting which company goal, which program, etc. So we also, at this point, started to think about how our end users would interact with the data, what additional data points might need to be collected later on down the line. So for instance, one of the main areas of focus for my marketing managers was around location. So they wanted to know whether this was an ad that was being served to electric customers only, gas customers only, or combination customers. So that's something that we wanted to make sure that within our coding and our tracking of all of our marketing collateral in the state of Michigan, we wanted to be able to tie back that particular data element to the collateral itself. So we created a process in which to do so. We standardized the different data elements that we were interested in having, and we identified those that already existed and those that did not. So that example of the electric, gas, or combo customer, that didn't exist. So that needed to be built into our tracking. And we were able to do that by sitting down with the marketing managers to understand what was important to them. The next step might seem duplicative for step 2 of standardizing tracking, because obviously if you standardize your tracking, you need to implement your tracking. But this is a really important consideration because this is the time in which we can ask ourselves what technologies can be utilized to make this process easier. We had at CMS Energy a few different technologies that we were utilizing across the board. One was Google Analytics. Another that we weren't quite sure at the start how it was going to play into the picture, whether it was going to play into the picture, but it ended up actually playing a huge role, was Workfront. This was our marketing and communications project management tool, and we actually created an intake form for all marketing projects that proactively captured at the start of a project the different programs that were going to be advertised as a part of that campaign, as well as the goals that it tied back to and the different customer elements that we were interested in capturing for tracking purposes. This was a really, really useful tool because the marketing managers oftentimes weren't proactively thinking about a lot of these questions, but by having a guided form in which they could input their responses, we were able to capture that right up front and make sure that it was a part of the tracking later on. Workfront 2 actually as a tool was nifty because we could code some if-then statements that if you choose this goal, this company program, then have these company goals pop up. So that way there's a lot less thinking on the marketing manager's part too. Next, this is where we're going to start getting into metrics, where we're going to start getting into the actual data itself, but we're not quite yet to the really fun part of visualizations and actual insights. But here, for step 4, we're going to determine what metrics and that we want to track, the KPIs that are important to show success for that particular program. My marketing managers hated this step to begin with. They absolutely abhorred it, specifically because I actually made them fill out benchmark forms for all of the different metrics and KPIs that we were going to be using to show success or not for each of our programs. For business, the example that we actually started with, they had some metrics that were already spun up as key performance indicators. What I found, though, coming into the role was that we hadn't established targets. We had no benchmark data to understand whether we were performing well. We found that we did have some historical data that we could reference as a benchmark, but then we also talked to other peers in the utility industry and outside of the utility industry to have an appropriate goal to show success. And that's where we really brought in industry best practices, et cetera. So the marketing managers, like I said, hated this activity. They did not want to sit in meetings with me to talk about click-through rate and the level of impressions. They wanted to market. They wanted to be creative. They wanted to create their collateral and then just get it out there for the world to see. But they found actually that this step was the most valuable to them later on. For when all of a sudden, in a few months, when we actually implemented a marketing analytics practice, and these metrics started to get traction with senior leadership, we started getting a lot of questions. Why did you choose this? Why is the target here? Why are we measuring this and not this? We had these benchmark forms to fall back on to document all of our decisions, and they're actually still utilizing these today as they spin up new marketing programs and as they're changing metrics, because the standard that may have been great in 2017, we may have found out that it didn't have as strong of a correlation to customer satisfaction as we originally thought. And so that was when we decided to remove, whereas we wanted to actually add in another metric that we found did have some impact. So then next, we got to the really fun conversations with the marketing managers of how are you going to actually consume the data. This is where, first, it's so important to ask who is the intended audience, and are they technology savvy and or number savvy. My marketing managers were amazing at their jobs, but they had to be reminded pretty consistently for the first honest to God, 3 months, have how to read a graph. They had no idea, very limited knowledge of what that looked like. So originally, as part of the POC, with all of those Excel spreadsheets flying around, the end deliverable ended up looking like this. So really busy Excel graphs, non-interactive, and my marketing managers used them to satisfy their leadership, but were not actively engaging with them or gaining insights on a daily basis. This was another example. See how small it looks to you? This is how small it looked to the marketing managers on their screen too. It had to be blown up. It was very difficult to understand whether we were winning or losing when it came to our marketing campaigns. So this is where we actually implemented Tableau. And what's fantastic about Tableau is the fact that it's simple, it's easy to use, and the marketing managers were able to play around with the data themselves so that the fear, the honest to God fear that they felt when I first approached them with the weekly reporting of here's your Excel graphs, that dissipated very quickly because this tool was much more intuitive to use and it was showcasing the data for them in a way that they understood and tied back to their priorities. The map functionality is fantastic for us. Being able to compare and see where we have the highest weight in market and then tie that back to customer satisfaction results in that particular market, amazing. And we had never been able to visually make that comparison before. This was something that the marketing managers were really excited about. And so we decided on Tableau as our tool for consumption. And then as the step 5A was something that I did as the analytics manager independent, and this was just because we had a staggered approach to establishing the marketing analytics practice for all of the different groups, but was thinking through how to automate the data cleansing and transformations. So again, the question here, what technology exists that can help us do this today? And this is where, just with my background, I'm very familiar with R, and we actually automated the process of cleansing our data to get it into the appropriate format for reporting. So where I had mentioned earlier, we were including within our tracking mechanism the company goals that were being supported by that particular marketing collateral, the audience, the territory, all of this metadata that was associated with a key that found within our tracking was actually all taken care of from a cleansing perspective just by running a simple program. And so that was a real time saver. This is essentially what automated a lot of the sending Excel spreadsheets to one another. No more of that. And so yeah, this was the example. So our UTM code, we had a standard format for that. The first column was actually our the territory type, so combination customer, gas customer, or electric customer, followed then by was this a business focus, a residential focus, or both, and then the program, and then the company goal that it ties back to. And so after running the program, you would get your data elements nice and clean, exactly the way you want them for visualizations and insights. Next, we get to the fun part, actually creating the visualizations and analytics. And this was where we were actually allowed to be creative. And make sure, though, too, that you identify your minimally viable product and deliver on that. There's no need to get overcomplicated when you're first starting off. It should be kept very simple. Again, go back to step 1. Why are we doing this activity? And make sure that the visualizations or analyses that you're providing tie back to that. Answer that question. Anything more, you don't need to do right off the bat in order to show that quick win value and get that business buy-in. Make sure, though, that you continue your conversations with the business units. So coming from an IT background, the world of marketing was brand new to me. And some of the conversations that I had with our business marketing manager at the front end of the process, I had misinterpreted some of the requirements potentially. And so we kept up that dialogue and we were able to make tweaks as we went along the process in order to make sure that everything was being satisfied. So one great example, again, so simple. We're not talking anything crazy, but we started to track our website visits along with the money that we spent on marketing. So we had a specific microsite created for our business marketing, and we ebbed and flowed in our dollars, largely due to budget cuts that were coming from senior management because they didn't understand the value that the marketing was providing in driving awareness and customer satisfaction. We created a simple chart because we now had the data to show that, guess what? If we can guarantee you that if we stop spending money at the rate we have been, we're going to have decreased engagement with our digital platform. We know that's a primary driver of customer satisfaction due to our customer research that we've completed, and there will be an end result that's not what you want to see on our actual customer satisfaction results. This was so powerful, and our marketing managers had never had anything like this. They were able to take this to that next budget conversation, and we did not get anything cut. We didn't get any money added to our budget, which is what we were asking for, but nothing was cut, and that was a huge step forward for the department that they had never seen before. This particular example was actually what allowed the rest of the marketing groups throughout the company to jump on the bandwagon very quickly. The second that they saw that our budget for business didn't get cut, but theirs did, then they started asking questions, and we had something that we were able to showcase them, as well as a process, right? Just follow these steps, we'll guide you along, and then you'll have the same insights as our business group does in maybe 3 months. It could even be shorter. So this was another example of benefits realized, and we'll get into that in just a second. But ultimately, we were able to deliver for business brand, business energy efficiency, brand, energy efficiency, and renewables. We were able to get the buy-in, deliver a standardized process for reporting, and have consistent reports and visualizations for all of these groups by July. And so, again, the steps, make sure that you identify your business value. Why are you doing the thing that you're doing? It doesn't matter if it's marketing, it doesn't matter if it's establishing pipes and wires, right? Why are we doing this? Once we understand that, we can then standardize our tracking, making sure that you're capturing the data elements in a consistent format that will allow you to provide the correct insights to tie back to the business value way down later on in the process. Next, that's when you implement your tracking. This step in particular, I think I found was the most difficult to do. There was a lot of coordination with other teams, including IT, including our workfront governance group, but it ended up being the most critical because it allowed for us to automate a lot of the steps of the process that would have taken up our time and not allowed us to focus on the actual insights. And then start talking about your benchmarking and standards. So how are you going to measure success? So now you have all this data. What does success look like? What are your KPIs for this particular activity that your company is embarking upon? Make sure you benchmark. Make sure you're talking to your peers within your industry and outside of your industry. Historical performance, if you have it, is great, but you don't always want to just compare yourself to yourself. You want to make sure that you're having that best practice per review outside of the industry. Then, talk about your data consumption. Is your audience technology savvy? Are they interested in Excel spreadsheets? Do they want something a little bit more interactive? Do they know how to read a graph? And then make your visualizations accordingly. Remember, you have step 5A in there as well. Try to automate as much of the data cleansing and transformation as possible. There is absolutely no reason that anybody should have to sit in front of a computer and manipulate Excel spreadsheets day in and day out. So even if it's not R or any statistical programming language, tools such as Tableau have that functionality built in for some cases. And then there are others out there, though, as well. But this is the step that will save everybody that's looking to establish an analytics practice so much heartburn and so much heartache. So the key, though, is to document everything, so that way it is truly that repeatable process. Make sure you incorporate technology wherever you possibly can, and tie back to business goals and outcomes. So at the end of all this, what happened? Well, I'm very happy to say that in 2016, it was taking us that 2.5 days to compile the reporting. We actually brought it down to 1 single day. And we increased the number of groups and marketing departments that we were actually providing this service for. So we went from 2, the business groups, all the way up to 6 by the end of this practice. Since then, we've actually been able to incorporate in 2018 a few more departments, and that was really exciting to be able to share the wealth and value of the analytics practice with everybody. We also were able to save some dollars by cutting out one of the wasted steps of moving data unnecessarily. So we found that in 2016, we were having our media agency send data to our creative agency and then to CE. We skipped the middle transfer part, optimize the process so that all data was just being sent to consumers. And then through the automation of the data cleansing and transformation, we could get our time down. And so $130,000 was actually saved through that automation and by shuffling the steps a little bit throughout the process. Some additional, so that was where we could then tie back to our business case for establishing analytics practices across the company to speed, quality, cost. And so there were a few, we're going to go over two really fun examples of the benefits of these visualizations to our different departments. So our Solar Gardens program, we tend to advertise this in the summer, and the Solar Gardens, you can actually subscribe to a block within our solar panel that we have at Grand Valley for a monthly cost, and we have a target of having X% of blocks subscribed to by a certain time. And the program was only going to be in market for, I think, 3 months, which is pretty short for a campaign. It was going to be really a blitz. We found out by having our reporting that our media agency accidentally placed our media everywhere but in Michigan. So week one in market, I'm looking at the data and I'm saying, what is going on? All of our visits to this particular page are coming from New York, Los Angeles. I don't see anything from Michigan. What is happening? And so, sure enough, we dive a little bit further. We had the data accessible to us, and our media agency had clicked the button of exclude Michigan instead of only include Michigan. So this is something that would never have been caught prior because we weren't tracking the data. We weren't actively monitoring our performance of our campaigns. We would have, at the end of the 3 months, we would have gotten a report halfway through of performance and how things were going, and then at the end of the 3-month time frame. And we may have the media agency might have captured it on their end, but it might not have been fast enough. And so we were excited. We ended up getting actually more time added to the campaign for free, which was great. And the marketing manager was pretty happy that we were able to catch this little mistake as fast as possible. This was really interesting. So again, coming from an IT background, the marketing world was a little strange and nebulous to me to start. So I had a lot of conversations with my peer, our marketing strategy director, around funnels and around the fact that we have primary goals for a marketing campaign and secondary goals. Our primary goal for our business energy efficiency program is action-based, so that darker green. We want customers to enroll. We're going to have to fill the top part of the funnel, our secondary goals of awareness and interest, in order to funnel people down to that actual action step. But we had no idea what combination of channels and weights in market would drive the highest number of applications. So we initiated tracking on our website where we could actually understand the number of applications downloaded per week, along with the number of applications submitted per week, and we tied that back to our media metrics, and we were able to start understanding the optimal channel mix. We figured out that we need digital radio and market in particular counties in order to drive higher subscriptions, as well as email blasts and direct mail campaigns. And so this was, again, something that just by seeing the data, we were able to draw some insights. We're working towards more of that predictive state, but this was a great first step in establishing the benefits of having analytics within marketing. All right, and now it's time for questions. Yes, in the back. Yep. Yep. Great. So the question was, do I feel that there's going to be more of a transition over to statistical programming languages such as Python and R in order to do a lot of that programming and computation? I think it's a split answer. I think that there is going to be a growing need and desire to have data scientists, a pool, not a very large pool necessarily in most companies. For the majority of the group, though, it makes sense to invest in products such as Alteryx, products that are able to maximize. But for some of the more advanced questions, and even just starting to wrestle with predictive analytics, it requires a very specific skill set. So no, I don't think that those types of individuals or skill sets are necessary for the automation and cleansing component, but when we start getting then into the world where we can actually use our data more efficiently, get into predictive analytics, it is a slightly more specific skill set, in my opinion. We're starting to deal with that at CMS Energy. We are starting now, we've been working on establishing our data lake over the last 2 years, and so we're actually starting to get into now theft analytics and our customer 360 model, where we are starting to try to understand marketing retention, marketing attraction, etc. And we're finding that we don't have the right skill sets in-house. The technology's there, we've made the right investments, but for the individuals to actually do the work, we're now starting to rethink kind of that hiring strategy. So just to share. Other questions? Yes?
So I understood when you talked about this marketing attraction as far as the business is concerned.
Yes.
So, and you mentioned the, the residential customers.
Yes.
So the way that I look at it, I live in Michigan and I have no other choice but choosing consumer energy.
Right. Regulated?
There's no other option.
Yep.
How would that help individuals in order to, for you to, advertise yourself?
Yes.
To me, how would that
Yep.
help?
Great. So the question was a little bit more oriented around CMS Energy and how does it benefit the residential customer for us to be advertising? So a lot of our advertising, as you saw, was around programs that are of benefit to the customer, so such as energy efficiency. And as we're starting to get into renewables as a company, we also want to understand if our customers are interested in those programs, and if not, let's discontinue, we'll start a pilot elsewhere. And we want to make Michigan a viable, sustainable place to live. We just recently announced some of our renewable energy goals, 80% carbon reduction by 2040, and we want to also have 40% renewable at that point in time. We're interested in making sure that that CMS Energy is around for the next 135 years, as we have been, but also that the state of Michigan is a thriving economic place to live, since we have 10,000 people that work there. And that's where our marketing is really oriented around our programs and trying to spread that message. Not only just energy efficiency and renewable energies, but billing and payment options, all that fun stuff.
So another question, might be a very stupid question, but I don't know. So for example, where I live, at the county level, they decide what kind of, trash company you're going to go with. There's no other option.
Yep.
They decide. So as far as you guys is concerned, I don't know who decides that you have to go to consumer energy, or the fact that you're going through all this marketing analysis is because you want to stay within that, I don't know, maybe.
We're a regulated entity, and we can talk more about this after if you want. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes. I think he was first. Sure.
You were mentioning the managers not being initially comfortable with the graph.
Yep.
So what did you do to help prepare them or get them more comfortable?
Great. So the question was, I said that the marketing managers were not initially comfortable with all of the data that was coming their way. What did I do to get them more comfortable? My take was really our culture at CMS is very face-to-face. We are a Michigan-based company. The culture just values that type of communication. So it was a lot of sit-down sessions. It was a lot of hand-holding. It was a lot of answering the questions. I had one group, though, that was a little bit more technology proficient. They were the ones that didn't want to meet me. They would just prefer a phone call. They would just prefer Skype. And so for them, I actually just shipped off the product and said, let me know what's working, let me know what's not, let me know what changes you want. And because they wanted to play around. So it was really taking a look at the individual marketing manager and the culture that that department had in and of itself and modifying my approach based on that analysis. Yes.
So a similar question to that, you showed a lot of Excel usage within your organization, very busy graphs. You mentioned you moved to Tableau. So is that still your tool of choice, and how is that
Definitely.
being adopted within the organization? Do you see a decrease in Excel and more interactive use of the product?
Yes. Most definitely. So we have seen the Tableau usage at the company explode over the last few years. I think we started getting Tableau integrated in like late 2015. We now actually have analytics centers. So fast forward a few years, we have analytics centers in most of our major departments. So we have a group that supports operations. We have a group that supports HR. We have a group that supports the customer side. And these groups are really shepherding the use of Tableau, because the ability too for our senior vice presidents to be able to interact and like leadership, we have daily operating reviews in a lot of our operations functions where ultimately back-to-back 15-minute phone calls that any issues that our field is experiencing throughout the day, it gets funneled up ultimately to the senior vice president, so that way escalations can occur appropriately and we can react immediately to the problems that our actual field and crews are having. Tableau has been instrumental in facilitating those conversations. So we have the daily KPIs that all of these groups are tracking, and we are utilizing the tool across the company. I see we're actually talking about another major licensing purchase shortly. So I have 1 more minute, so I have 1 more question. I'm available for questions afterwards, though, too. Okay. You can go up front and then.
Well, my quick follow-up, you probably were just getting into that in terms of the licensing,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of the Tableau. Are you guys using the server?
Yes, we are. Yep. Yep. All right. I think we have one. Okay. We'll squeeze in 1 more.
During this process, did you come across any resistance from the end users, and how did you handle that?
I was lucky and I actually did not. I know that other analytic groups, though, within consumers definitely have, but my focusing on the single use case of business helped pave the way. I would never recommend a big bang approach for establishing the analytics practice. I would recommend starting very small, going in short sprints to showcase the value immediately. The buy-in occurred right away. It was great. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate your time today.